All right, you guys are here for Build JSS Websites with Blazor. I'm excited to have you here. It's a great crowd. I am Corey Smith. I'm a 3-time Sitecore MVP of Technology and independent consultant here in the United States. You can find me on Twitter at SiteCorey. Please tweet at me during and after this presentation. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Sitecore, JSS, and Blazor. And I'm co-presenting today with Gary.
Good afternoon. My name is Gary Wanneker. I'm working for McCall, Netherlands, platinum partner as an architect. And you can find me on Twitter as well or in Slack.
So we've got a lot to cover today. First, we'll take a look at what Blazor is, Microsoft's latest web development framework. Then we'll move into looking at Blazor's 2 hosting models. So it's got one hosting model called Blazor Server that uses a persistent signal R connection, and we'll see how that works. Then we'll move on to Blazor WebAssembly. So this is a completely client-side framework that uses WebAssembly as its name implies. And we'll take a look at how that works and why we think that that's a really good fit for Sitecore and JSS development. From there, we'll look at JSS Blazor, a brand new client SDK for Sitecore and JSS that's built on Blazor WebAssembly, and we'll explain how that integrates with Sitecore. We'll do a live demo so you can actually see what Blazor development looks like. And then lastly, we've got a nice little surprise for you we think you're going to be really excited about. So without further ado, Gary, you want to introduce Blazor?
Thank you. So can I have a show of hands? How many people actually heard of Blazor? Whoa. And who've worked with it? Whoa. So Blazor is the latest and greatest new web development framework. It has been released about 1 month ago in September with the .NET Core 3.0. And it supports rich interactive web UI built with C#. And it can compete with frameworks like React, Angular, and Vue. So you might have heard that Blazor uses and requires Signal R. And you might have heard that Blazor uses and requires WebAssembly. Both are true. We have 2 hosting models. So the first one is Blazor Server, and that uses Signal R, but not WebAssembly. The second one is WebAssembly, and it doesn't necessarily use a Signal R, but it can. Regardless of both hosting models, you develop Blazor components the same way. Since Blazor is built on .NET Core, it is very great because now Blazor development can be done on any platform, like Linux, Mac, and Windows. It's a modern framework, it's open source. Just like the rest of the .NET Core framework, it's built on open web standards, just like the brand new one called WebAssembly. And this is what makes JSS Blazor possible. And it's very exciting because now you're building in C#, not JavaScript. So I've been working the last couple of years with front-end frameworks, spoken to many developers, and they think as a back-end developer, it's very hard to start with JSS, including tooling like Webpack, NPM, and Babel. And the list goes on and on. Blazor removes this barrier totally to start with JSS, because you're writing your code in C# in Visual Studio. You build your projects with MS Build, and you can use NuGet packages just like you used to. To recap, Blazor has 2 hosting models, Blazor Server and WebAssembly. Component development on Blazor is the same no matter what hosting model you choose. However, how the code is executed is different. So let's dive into how Blazor works. So let's say we have a web browser and we make a request to a page called Style Guide. This server is running Blazor and it renders our application and renders the HTML and we'll send it then back to the browser. This is the first call. So once the application loads, a persistent connection is created from the client to the server. This is necessary because of events to the browser, mouse clicks, component code, and of course also navigation. Keep in mind, all code is executed on the server. So this is done through Signor, but Blazor server is not a client framework like React, Angular, or Vue. So components are deployed on the server. The React connection is Blazor's Achilles heel. And this is because when the connection drops, then also the application renders useless. So that's a big problem. So Blazor's benefits, we have full server-side debugging capabilities. The client-side payload is very small because on the server, the code runs and you don't need to deploy anything to the client. And the app runs better on resource-constrained devices because they're not doing anything, only showing HTML. And this means a wider browser support. WebAssembly is not necessary. Blazor also has some downsides. This make it very unappealing, in my opinion, in most use cases. Most processing is done on the server. So where you have a slow connection, you can't feel the latency when there's a slow connection. There's absolutely no offline support. So when the connection is lost, the application is useless until the connection is restored. You might see a disconnection screen, but the application is inoperable. And for us, I think, it's a showstopper, right? Yeah. Scalability is a challenge and a real concern because state is managed on the server. So again, when the connection is lost, the application doesn't work. Last but not least, Blazor server requires .NET Core. And for this very reason, JSS Blazor does not support Blazor server hosting model. Sitecore runs on ASP.NET framework and not on .NET Core.